Hello, friends. Welcome back to English Classes Online. My name is Benjamin. Today's video is on word stress in West African Senior School Certificate Examination English, the rules for choosing correct answers. And so this is West African Senior School Certificate Examination English preparatory lesson. If you are new to this channel, kindly subscribe to the channel by clicking on the subscribe button below. You will find a red button tagged subscribe. Just click on it and you will be subscribed to this channel. You will have free access to all the videos we upload. And so it is necessary for you to click on the bell icon as well. You will find a bell icon below. Just click on it and this will activate the notification system so that whenever I upload a new video on the channel, you will receive instant notification. Without much ado, let's dive into the lesson. As you can see, we are going to solve these questions on stress, word stress. And this is West African Senior School Certificate Examination, June 2020, English Language 3, objective questions, test of orals. And we are focusing on section 4, which deals with stress. So that's what we are going to do. But before then, let's look at some of the things that we earlier discussed, that we actually discussed, we shared in a previous video on stress in English. All right. We looked at some of these questions that are important. What is word stress? Why should we learn word stress? What are the factors that determine word stress? What are the rules of stress? Of course, even if it is just to be able to pass your exam, if you are a student, of course, that answers question 2, why do we learn word stress? But beyond passing your English exams, you need stress in order to communicate your ideas with clarity when you speak. Because word stress is the extra force applied when pronouncing a word or a syllable, which is part of a word. So we shall be looking at all these. All right, so again, you see that when we stress a word or when we stress a syllable, we make it sound louder and longer. All right, so another name for word stress is syllable stress, because, you know, when we look at the word education here, all right, then you can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4 syllables, all right? And then stress is placed on this third syllable from the beginning, which is the second syllable from the end of the word. And so we pronounce this education. So stress is on this, all right? So we place stress on K, all right? Responsibility. You see, you can see stress here. Democratic, you can see stress here. All right. Banana, you can see stress on na. the first na, the na, musician. And so you can see that stress indicates, stress actually helps us to express meaning. All right. So now, why we learn stress is because stress is used to communicate meaning clearly in English speech, just as you already saw. In our previous video, I gave you this same example. Consider the word projects. Projects, you see stress is on the first syllable when we use this word as a noun, project. A noun is a project here means a piece of work undertaken. But what if we decide to use the same word as a verb to talk about an action? Then it becomes project. It's no longer project, it is project, which means to communicate clearly. So here you can see the same word, can mean two different things depending on where we place stress. So stress is really important for communicating our intended meaning. If we want to communicate the meaning of project as a noun, as a piece of work undertaken, we place stress on the first syllable and we say project. Have you completed the project? The project. All right. Now, but if we decide to convey a different meaning, which means to communicate clearly, then we can say, well, this is exactly the idea that they want to project. That means that they want to communicate, to project. All right. So you can see that stress helps us to convey our intended meaning and communicate our ideas accurately and more clearly. And this means that when you misuse stress, then you actually mispronounce a word and you distort the meaning. All right. And this could cause communication breakdown. All right. So now we have seen why we should learn stress. Then factors that determine stress. I also discussed this in that video I am talking about. So you can look for that video for, a more detailed explanation on some of these things that I'm just, trying to gloss over here. Now, three major factors determine stress: word class, which is part of speech, syllables, and affixes. Affixes are made up of prefixes and suffixes, and how all these determine stress can also be seen in that video. So try to check the description section, or you search my channel, you will find stress in English, all right? Now, rules of stress. We have, I discussed 10 rules of stress in that video, and we won't be able to go through them in details, but as we answer the question in this video, I specifically want to show you how to choose the correct answers, how to choose the correct answers to questions on stress, all right? So I'm going to show you how to choose the correct answers when you meet questions on stress. And that's exactly what we are going to do. And we will be using these rules of stress. For example, the first one is If a two-syllable word is used as a noun and also as a verb, stress the first syllable when it is a noun and stress the second syllable when it is a verb. We have seen that in the example. When we use this word as a noun, we stress the first syllable, it becomes project. If we want to use it as a verb, then we stress the second syllable and it is pronounced project. The same thing you have in exports, exports, imports, imports. You have other words like convict, convicts, present, present, conduct, conduct, and so on and so forth. All right. Then the second rule, if a two-syllable word is used as a noun and also as an adjective, stress the first syllable when it is a noun and stress the second syllable when it is an adjective. And that's what we have in August, August, adult, adults, etc. The third rule, if a two-syllable word is used as an adjective and also as a verb, stress the first syllable when it is an adjective and stress the second syllable when it is a verb. Present, present, absent, absent, frequent, frequent. All right, so now let me just walk you through these various rules. Rule number 4, most two-syllable nouns and adjectives are stressed on the first syllable, but most two-syllable verbs are stressed on the second syllable. Already, this is derived from the previous rule. You know, most two-syllable nouns are stressed on the first syllable, and most two-syllable verbs are stressed on the second syllable. We saw it when we talked about project, project, you know, present, present, and so on. So here we have other examples: window, Monday, hostel, and so on. But when then we talk of adjective: gentle, easy, righteous, prosper, or proper. All right. Now, so both nouns and adjectives, you know, when they are two-syllable, most of them have their stress on the first syllable. But verbs have their stress on the second syllable, and that's what we have in produce, report, narrate, transfer, dictate, denounce, reject, and so on. All right. Now, rule number 5, if a two-syllable word begins with a prefix, stress the second syllable. And the rule here recognizes the fact that prefixes are almost always unstressed. So when you have a two-syllable word that begins with a prefix, you bypass the prefix and you stress the second syllable. That's what we have in this step. The DIS, which is this, is a prefix. A prefix is a word part that is, you know, that is put at the beginning of a word or a stem to form a new word. And so when you have unfair, un is, you know, a prefix. If you remove an, what you have is fair. But when you put this prefix, you make it opposite or negative. Fair is something positive. You put an, it becomes a negative. Unfair, it becomes negative rather. The same thing, unknown, return. You know, when you turn, that's something. But when you return, it has the meaning of turning again, all right? Return, rewire, all right? Remake, rejoice, impound, observe, desist, about, expand, confirm, between, invite, and so on and so forth. So you have to note that this rule applies more to verbs and adverbs and prepositions, all right? The prefix is stressed for a noun that can also be used as a verb. We saw that in a word like export, import. You know, when you have the word export, you will agree with me that, you know, export, then you can see that X is a prefix. And so when we use it as a noun, it becomes exports. All right. So you can see when a two-syllable word is used as a noun and also as a verb, you can stress the first syllable even though it is a prefix if it is used as a noun. All right. So we have export. So those are exceptions to the rule. We stress the prefix if the word is a word that can be used as a noun and also as a verb. Because when we want to use it as a noun, we have to stress the first syllable, even if it is a prefix. And that's what we have in export, import, and so on and so forth. All right. So let's now move over to the next rule, which is rule number 6. For words that end in the following suffixes, they almost always take a stress on the second syllable from the end. You know, when I was showing you something about the factors that determine stress, one of the factors is affixes. And when we talk of affixes, we are talking about two major things, all right? When we talk of affixes, of course, we are talking about, sorry, let's get back to, all right? So when we are talking about affixes, then of course, we are talking about prefixes and suffixes. So affixes, you know, the first part of affixes is prefixes. The second part is suffixes. All right, so you can see one of them is suffixes, and suffixes determine stress in polysyllabic words. We have different types of words when we look at them in terms of, you know, in terms of how many syllables make up the word. In that case, we are talking about 3 of them. Number 1 is monosyllabic words. All right. Number 2 is bisyllabic words. Of course, it is also called disyllabic words. Those are 2-syllable words. Then the next one is polysyllabic words, which are also called multi-syllabic words. So we have these 3 types of words in terms of, you know, the number of syllables they contain. So the first one is monosyllabic words. Stress is determined here in terms of the kind of word, the kind of monosyllabic words. You have content words, you have function or grammatical words. Of course, check my previous video on word stress in English, and all these are explained there. Then bisyllabic words are words of 2 syllables, and rule number 1, rule number 2, the rules we explain, you know, are rules that apply to bisyllabic words. Bisyllabic words are determined, stress in bisyllabic words is determined in most cases by part of speech. And that's why we say if a bisyllabic word or a 2-syllable word is used as a noun and also as a verb, stress the first syllable if it is a noun, and stress the second syllable if it is a verb. So part of speech determines stress in bisyllabic words. And then another thing that determines stress in bisyllabic words is prefixes. You know, we said that if a bisyllabic word begins with a prefix, stress the second syllable. All right. And in most cases, if the first syllable is not a prefix, then you stress that first syllable. Okay, so then in polysyllabic words, stress is determined in most cases by suffixes. So I want you to take note of this. And that is why we are talking about suffixes here. All right. For words that end in the following suffixes, they almost always take a stress on the second syllable from the end of the word. So when we look at the word communication, so you can see that we are looking at, you know, well, we didn't break this. Communication is CO, mu, okay, sorry. Let me indicate stress properly. CO, MMU, NI, then you can see it here. So stress is first syllable from the end of the word. So let me look at the one that is clearly broken up, and that's what we have here. First syllable is this, second syllable is this. Sorry, this is second. Third syllable is this. So in this case, we start counting from the end of the word. And then according to this rule, you know, words that end in these suffixes have stress on the second syllable from the end of the word. So when we count first syllable, second syllable is this, and this is where we place stress. Now, the same thing happens. Well, let's look at the word democratic. You can see here that we begin here 1, 2, 3, 4. And so we place stress on this second one from the end of the word, and that is why we have it here. So it's a clear rule, you know. So for words that end in these suffixes, the suffixes are ION, IC, IAL, IAN, IEN, IOUS, TANT. All right. Now let me try and show you something with the word education. You can see it ends in ION. And so if we number it, this is syllable number 1 from the end. This is 2. This is 3. Please just don't mind the writing. Okay, so we have, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is actually 3. So please, let's take note of this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so the rule states that we count from the end 1, 2, and so we place stress here. And because stress is indicated with the capital letter, then what we will have is edu. All right. K. So this is the way stress is placed. And the same thing plays out in all these ones. I hope you understand that quite clearly. Well, I didn't intend to really spend much time in explaining these rules because I've already explained them in the previous video. But let's just go through them so that when we begin to answer the questions, I advise you to watch this video till the end so that you'll be able to see when we begin to solve the actual past while question applying these rules. All right, so the rule number 7, for words of 3 syllables or more that end in the suffixes ty, nate, ize, you know, they almost always have anti-penultimate stress that is on the 3rd syllable from the end of the word. Well, you may not bother yourself with this anti-penultimate. Just note that it is the 3rd syllable from the end. The other rule number 6, we talked about the 2nd syllable from the end, and here we are looking at 3rd syllable from the end. And of course, we are dealing with words, you know, that they are polysyllabic words. Look at this word, reinvigorate. It has 5 syllables. Reinvigorate. Then we have numbered it from the end, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So when we count 1, 2, then we get to 3, and we place stress here. So when we come to reinvigorate, all right, this is how it will be. Sorry. Reinvigorate. All right, so this is the way it is. So we place stress on this 3rd syllable, and that is the one that has the capital letters. So if you understand these rules and apply them, then you'll be able to pick the correct answers. All right, so let's quickly look at rule number 8. Words that end in EE, 3 syllables or more, especially nouns with EE, that is the long E sound, E, right? E. Now, such words are stressed on the 1st syllable from the end, that is the last syllable. And words like this are mostly, some of them are words of French origin. So here you have absentee, détenu, nominee, reportee, divorcee, and so on and so forth. So you also have some other suffixes, you know, that you can talk about, really. Let me give you some of them. Like is, you have it in Portuguese or something. So then, you know, you also have this in cigarettes, rates, you know. So words like that, you know, are similar to this. Then let's look at, you know, let's look at rule number 9. Stress the 4th syllable from the end for 4-syllable words and more if the word ends in ism or able. All right, so these are rules of stress, and you have it in revivalism. Revivalism. So you can have the first, revivalism. Okay. Valism. So here you have, this is the first from the end. This is syllable number 2 from the end. Then you have 3. Sorry. This is 3. This is 4. This is 5. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is where stress is placed, and this is in line with the rule. Stress the 4th syllable from the end of the word, from the end for 4-syllable words and more if the word ends in ism or able. All right. Now, another rule that can also help you to understand is that when a word ends in ism and it begins with the prefix re, for example, then you simply stress the syllable that comes immediately after the prefix. All right. So here the prefix is re, and immediately after it we stress revivalism. The same thing happens here in revisionism. The prefix is re, and immediately after re, then we stress this revisionism. Now here we have 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a word of 4 syllables and it ends in zim, and so we stress this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4. So we are stressing the 4th syllable from the end, and that 4th syllable happens to be the first in tribalism. Now, impossible. Here, the rule that applies here is if it begins with a prefix, you stress the syllable immediately after the prefix, and that's another rule you must observe, because if we are to look at 1, 2, 3, then we are supposed to place stress here, but because this is a prefix, we do not stress the prefix in most cases. So we bypass the prefix and we stress the syllable that comes immediately after the prefix. The same thing happens in impalpable. Im is a prefix and then stress comes immediately after that. The same thing in improbable. Improbable. After the prefix, we stress the other one. All right? So that is rule number 9. Okay? So let's now go to rule number 10, which incidentally is the last rule. And so for words of 4, 5, and 6 syllables that end in able or able and are introduced by the following prefixes in, income, inad, inco, in the, they are almost always stressed on the syllable that follows the prefix beginning of a word. So I have already explained this in the previous rule, but let's look at it again. Now, these are 2 prefixes here. In is a prefix, then cor is a prefix, and so incorruptible, incompatible, then incompatible, inadmissible, incredible. All right, so these are the rules that apply. Now, having looked at all these rules and other pieces of information that can help us to answer questions, let's now look at these few questions taken from section 4 of the West African Senior School Certificate Examination of June 2020, objective question, test of orals. Now, the instruction here is as follows. In each of the following questions, well, let's look at it quite critically. In each of the following questions, the main or primary stress is indicated by writing the syllable on which it occurs in capital letters. From the words lettered A to D, choose the one that has the correct stress. And so let's now begin to look at this. Question number 36. We are given the word overwhelming. All right. So here since we can't place our fingers on any of the rules we discussed that applies here, then we rely on the rule of intuition. I want you to take note of this. The rule of intuition. Now, what do I mean by intuition? Intuition has to do with something already programmed within you as a speaker or a user of a language, because you have used this language or learned this language over time. You have certain rules already internalized, and so you can rely on these internalized rules that you have actually internalized as a result of long use or practice. These rules are internalized and they are right there in your subconscious mind. So if you rely on intuition, then you can actually get it right if you are a knowledgeable user of the language. Now let's look at how we can do this. All right, let's look at how we can do this. The word overwhelming. All right, now let's look at this word overwhelming. Let's look at option A. Can we pronounce this as overwhelming? It doesn't really correspond with what we have as our intuition. Overwhelming doesn't really make sense. Then overwhelming, which is option B, also doesn't sound naturally correct to us as users of English. Then C, overwhelming. This actually is correct without stressing ourselves to look for any rule. We can rely on the rule of intuition because we have heard this word pronounced over time by users of the language, and we know that people say overwhelming. People do not say overwhelming, and people do not say overwhelming. No, people say overwhelming. So stress is always on well, all right? So this is exactly the way it is. Then option D is out of it, overwhelming. So you can't even stress that ing. So the actual correct option is C, but you can see that we relied on the use of intuition. I didn't discuss this among the rules because this is a rule that is part of your subconscious mind as a user of the language. All right, that's for no better way of explaining that I have just told you is something already internalized in you, all right? So when you check your inner consciousness and you try to pronounce the various options, then you will intuitively arrive at the correct answer because it will actually show up. When you pronounce the wrong option, then it will raise some, warning signals within your subconscious. All right, so that is what we mean by intuition. Now, question number 37, melancholy. You see, so again, let me say something that before you even begin to look at the options, try and pronounce it yourself. Like we meet this word, we immediately try to pronounce it over well mean. So we can determine where stress should be placed if we pronounce it well. And here we just pronounce this melancholy, melancholy. All right, so we can almost immediately decide where stress must be placed. And so when we check the options, we eliminate the ones that do not really tally with our intuition. And so melancholy does not really correspond to the usual pronunciation of this word. And stress, what stress does is that when you place stress in the right syllable, then you get the right pronunciation. If you place stress on the wrong syllable, you distort the sound of the word, and again, you confuse the listeners because they won't know what you are actually talking about. So here we are going to look at, well, melancholy. So here you can see exactly that melancholy. Actually, as a matter of fact, let's see melancholy. You see, there's a kind of something that doesn't really rhyme because but this has to do with mother tongue interference, because I am used to this word and I know the way the native speakers pronounce the word. Of course, I can see that I have to make a departure from the way this word is usually pronounced among my countrymen and women, because the way it is actually pronounced among my fellow countrymen, it is melancholy, which if we are to go with that usual this pronunciation, then we will go for this. But then this actually the stress is placed on the first syllable here, melancholy. So you can see that if you are not careful, your mother tongue interference can actually compel you to place stress wrongly, even when you are relying on intuition, because in this case, because of mother tongue interference, the intuition is wrong in the first place, all right? So this is where knowing the phonological rules becomes necessary, especially for ESL users of English, because most ESL users will always pronounce it melancholy, all right? But then among the standard users, it is A, all right? Then this one, melancholy, no. Melancholy, no. So it is actually the first one, even though we cannot specifically place our fingers on the specific rule. All right, there is also another rule which we call word specific rule in phonology. Some phonologists have advised that when each time you get to know a new word in English, because of the erratic nature of the rules, because some of the rules have chains of exceptions, so that sometimes you might be applying a rule and then you might get it wrong because you are applying it to one that is an exception to that rule. English has that tendency. So some phonologists have suggested that each time you learn a new word in English, you should also learn the sound. And this means that you also learn the stress, where the primary stress is placed. And when you adopt that, then when you learn a word like melancholy, then of course you know that stress is placed on the first syllable. And so it is an exception, to the certain rules that might actually, be contrary to the way this word is pronounced. Now let's go to question number 38, which is inflammation. Inflammation. Now, of course, we are familiar with this, even both native speakers and second language speakers. And again, this, of course, tallies with a rule we already know. If a word ends in ION or IC or IAN, of course, words ending in such suffixes have their stress placed on the second syllable from the end of the word. So let's try and check if this tallies. Okay, so here, let's look at, this is syllable 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4. But we are concerned with 1 and 2 because immediately after the first syllable from the end of the word, we place stress on the second one, which is here. So with this in mind, let's now look for the one that agrees with this rule. You see that when we come to the question that, that is, where the rules we have learned is applicable, it becomes quite easy for us to actually pick the answer. We do not waste time over it because we already have a rule that we can easily apply. And once we can work it out, we just go to the various options. Inflammation, no, we eliminate this because it doesn't tally. We are looking for the one where MA or MMA is capitalized. So if we find that, that is correct. Then inflam, no, this is eliminated. Then C is correct because that tallies. Inflammation, inflammation. So you can see that tallies with what we earlier saw in education. All right, education. So it's the same ION. All right, so that actually gives us the answer. Let's go to question number 39, calculation. Calculation. Again, this tallies with our rule. okay, because it ends in ION, so we can write calculation. The reason being that already with the rule of intuition, we already know. All right. So this is syllable number 1. This is 2. This is 3. And this is 4. So we place stress on the second syllable from the end of the word. Then question number 40, economic, economic, economic. All right, so now this word also ends with the suffix IC, and the same rule applies. So when we look at this, what do we find? All right. Okay, so here we have the first one. Then here we have the second one. Here we have the third one. And here we have the fourth one. So this is the one that should be stressed, okay? And so when we find anyone that has stress on this noun, then that is the answer, because we have used the rule we learned to actually look at it. And so option A is eliminated because stress is in EC, but we are looking for stress on NOM. Option B out of it, stress is on O. Option C is correct because this is where we have stress on nom. Option D is out of it. So these actually are, ways in which we can actually pick the correct answers, when we are solving questions on stress placement or word stress in English. And this is where we are going to draw the curtain in today's video. We have been looking at word stress in West African Senior School Certificate Examination English, the rules for choosing correct answers. We have looked at the rules and we have looked at how to apply them. We also went ahead to talk about other rules that can be of use to you when you are answering questions in your English exams. If you have enjoyed today's video, like the video and share it with your friends and relations. If you have not subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel by clicking on the subscribe button. Click on the bell icon also, so that whenever a new video goes live on the channel, you will be notified instantly. If you have any questions, suggestions, or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. There are quite a number of videos on this channel that you might find useful in your English learning. Of course, apart from English learning, there are other things we do on this channel, and that is content creation. We create videos on content creation, on digital marketing, and also on, digital marketing and internet or online business, all right? So we upload videos that will help you to start your online business or create multiple streams of income by, delving into digital marketing or online business or content creation. What I'm doing here on this YouTube channel is I'm creating content and that actually puts money in my pocket. All right, so if you are interested in learning those skills, digital skills that will help you to begin to make money by creating content or by creating digital products and selling them, or creating your online business, of course, we have videos that discuss and share those ideas so that you can be empowered and then you can earn money, even quite sitting in the comfort of your home. So I want to say a big thank you to all of you out there for being part of today's episode. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye for now and remain blessed. Many thanks for watching today's video. A big thank you to all of you out there for being part of today's episode. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, kindly subscribe to this channel. Subscribe now as a way of giving us support. For notification about new videos, click on the bell icon. You will find the bell icon. Click on it so that whenever a new video is uploaded, you will be instantly notified. If you have actually enjoyed the video, like and share the video with your friends and relatives. This is very important. If you have any comments, leave your comments below. Any questions, any suggestions, we would gladly receive them and respond promptly and positively to them. See you in the next video. I look forward to always seeing you in the new video.